Breaking news coming for the men's basketball team. Micah Handlogten, who a year ago, just shy of a year ago, in the SEC tournament, suffered a really bad leg injury. We didn't think he would play. It was reported back in August of 2024 that Micah was going to sit out for the season. But then about a month ago, there were some Spurs that he's good to go and he's going to play. However, he decided not to play in any of the games. He was cleared to play. We didn't know, maybe it was just wanting to save his red shirt or it was like a confidence issue. But here we are now. Alex Condon gets injured against Mississippi State in the first 30 seconds. Sam Alexis also got injured. Is confirmed out for the South Carolina game. And now you have Micah Handlogten, who's going to burn his red shirt, step up in the final 7 games of the regular season. And not just that, Florida, the final 7 games, Florida's also primed to be a 1 or a 2 seed in the SEC tournament. So, I mean, we look at Alex Condon being out for 1 to 2 weeks is what's been reported as of this morning. We'll see if it will be extended or not. And this is a real big addition for the Gators. I mean, you have your next 4 games. South Carolina is tomorrow night. That's a big, I mean, you're missing Sam Alexis. If you're only trying to have Thomas Houck and Ruben Chinyelu for that game, I mean, you're going to have no depth. You're probably running 4 guards a good amount of the time, maybe bringing in some freshmen or like Victor Mikic, who you've barely even seen this season. So I think getting Micah for this game is a real big thing.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about in the past, like this South Carolina team had some success, rebounding and such against the Gators. So, yeah, I think that would have been really concerning coming into this game without having Micah. I think you're right. I think his addition is huge. I mean, it remains to be seen where he's at.
Yep.
Like you said, really gruesome leg injury he suffered last year. You just don't know. There's a reason he was originally going to sit out this year, but he's been cleared, has apparently been a full go in practice for, like a month or 2 now. So, understandable why he wasn't going to burn it initially, I think, trying to preserve his options. After that, not trying to come back midway through the year, especially when Florida kind of has its rotation figured out and there wasn't necessarily a clear spot for him. But now, he's going to probably start or at least play a lot of minutes in these next few games.
Yeah. It was confirmed that tomorrow night, Ruben Chinyelu and Thomas Houck will be starting, and Micah will be coming off the bench.
Okay.
Now, I guess depending on how
No, go ahead.
Depending on how Micah plays, we'll probably determine if he starts throughout the rest of the season or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, even Condon, obviously, it seems like we avoided the worst case scenario there. Low ankle sprain, not even as bad as a high ankle sprain, which also probably wouldn't have been season ending if it were that. So, hopefully should have him back well before the start of the tournament. But I think, having Micah, even when he gets back, is pretty nice to have the added depth there, because that is an area, Florida has the backcourt depth. I mean, we've seen them manage the losses of Walter Clayton, the losses of Elijah Martin, guys like Denzel Aberdeen, Urban Klavjar. We have guys stepping up in the backcourt. Not to say that guys aren't stepping up at the front court, but there just aren't those guys. Like the depth doesn't really exist. You're seeing, you see how much losing Condon. I mean, they had lineups out there the other night that Todd Golden would never want to have out there if he didn't have to. So, I think it just gives this team a lot more flexibility in terms of what it can do, how it can set up its rotations. I think it's a big boost for a team that already looked like it had the potential to make a Final Four run. This is just an added bonus and should hopefully help ease however many games here it is without Condon.
Yeah, I think the biggest addition this adds is going to be the offensive rebounding. I mean, Florida still is top 5 in the nation offensive rebounding. We really bolstered that up before the conference play started, where we were like first, and now we fall. I mean, it's still 5th, so we're still a really good offensive rebounding team. But when you look at last year in the SEC, Micah Handlogten averaged 3.3 offensive rebounds per game, which was 2nd in the SEC. And you had Tyrese Samuel, who was 4th at 2.8 offensive rebounds per game. Well, when you look at this year, for offensive rebounds, you have Alex Condon, who's 4th. That's obviously really good, averaging three offensive rebounds per game. But then you takes a little bit, scrolling down, 15th for Ruben Chinyelu, who's averaging 2.3 offensive rebounds per game. So I think if you're getting that Micah Handlogten, who full health, I mean, if he's just playing like he was last year, you might have better offensive rebounding than you did last year, as you also do have like Thomas Houck, who is 18th. So if you're having 4 players now who are in that top 20, maybe even 2 players who are in the top 5, I mean, it's going to be real tough to get those defensive rebounds against Florida.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think he brings, we haven't really talked about it, but I mean, Alex Condon is what listed at 6'10", 6'11". So is
6'10", I believe.
6'10". I think Chinyalu's also listed at 6'10". Micah's 7'1".
Yes.
So kind of just even more size down low than what you already have.
Yeah. I will say about Ruben, he is 6'10", but I believe he's like a 7'6" wingspan. So
yeah.
like what you
say,
miss for height
he looks a little bigger than 6'10", but that is what he's listed at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just
Sorry,
I was just going to say more size, more experience, more depth. I think this is a really big addition for the Gators.
He is a 7'8" wingspan. So
wow.
I mean, 6'10" to 7'8" wingspan is just wild.
That is crazy.
But going back, I think it's a really good time, not just because you have the Alex Condon injury, but Florida probably has its easiest 4-game stretch in conference play right here.
Yeah.
Now, South Carolina, they have Colin Murray-Boyles, who is one of the best big men in the country. He's a projected first-round pick. So that might give him some trouble. But, I mean, you still have Ruben and Houck, who will take probably a good amount of that brute force from Colin Murray-Boyles. But then after that game, you go and play Oklahoma, who their tallest guy, their only guy over 6'8". I mean, they only have one player averaging 6 points a game who's taller than 6'8". So you're not really worried about the bigs from Oklahoma. They have a small forward, so he's not really going to be worried about for Micah Handlogten there and Jelon Moore. But then you go to LSU. They also don't really have any big guys who are going to out-duel Micah Handlogten offensively. And you have Jalen Reed, a former Gator commit, who averages 11 points per game, but he's like 6'8". So it's probably going to be more of a Houck battle there. Even like Condon, he won't be back for that game, but that's going to be more Houck, some Handlogten. So that's not really too much of a worry offensively there. And then that game against Georgia, we played Georgia. Not really too worried about their bigs. I mean, Wilco, I think it is, like, he's solid, but he's not really scary offensively. Neither is Gone. So, I'm thinking of a UFC fighter, but still, it's something like that, not on the top of my head. So outside of this South Carolina game, those next 3 games, you're really going to be able to ease Micah Handlogten into the starting lineup or into the rotation. As again, you're just not worrying about those big men bullying him down low.
Yeah, and you're right. It is a key stretch here because, I mean, truthfully, like if you want to stay in contention for a number 1 seed, you got to win all 4 of these. I think you could maybe afford to lose at Alabama and stay in contention for a number 1 seed, assuming you win the rest of your games.
Yeah,
but
I think if we go 6-1, we'll be a 1 seed.
I think you're probably right about that. I think you're probably right because that would be only 4 losses overall on the year, right?
Yeah,
not counting a tournament exit. Yeah, so I mean,
SEC tournament,
yeah. So I mean, like, I think you're looking pretty good if you do that. But yeah, this next 4 is really going to tell us whether Florida's going to stay in position to potentially do that. And I mean, my whole thing with this team all year, like watching it, the thought I haven't been able to escape is, watching this team when healthy is, imagine if Micah was in this rotation too.
Yep.
And to be fair, like, if Micah doesn't get hurt, Ruben's probably not on the team. Like, Ruben was a transfer addition they got because they knew Micah didn't think Micah was going to play this year. So it's not like this would have been what the team was if Micah hadn't gotten hurt. But I think now that you've got them all those pieces there, gearing up to make a run. I mean, anything can happen in the tournament, but you're really hard pressed to find like clear weaknesses with this team. There's a lot of depth across the board now, assuming Condon comes back and looks like he did before he got hurt.
And we know Micah is a bit more offensively gifted than we would see from Ruben Chinyalu, who you can just tell, like, the way he lays it up is kind of just. Yeah. I think that also comes with Ruben's size. Like, he's 6'10", but 7'8" wingspan. It's pretty hard to have control there. But I mean, we've seen Ruben Chinyalu last year in an overtime game against Georgia. He went for 23 points and 17 rebounds. I don't know if we have a player that we would see go for 23 and 17 on this team in any game.
Yeah.
Like, I think Condon's career high is 19, and he's like getting the low teens, like 10s, 11s, 12s for rebounds. So, I mean, this could just be another guy that could help you dominate. And then you go, we host Texas A&M March 1st. you're hoping to have Condon based off the timetable we were given of 1 to 2 weeks. You're hoping to have Alex Condon by that game because Texas A&M is probably the best rebounding and offensive rebounding team in the country. So if you're going into that game without Alex Condon, you're really going to need Micah Handlogten to step up. But if you do have Condon, then you're talking about maybe out offensive rebounding A&M in that game, which is kind of wild when you look at how Texas A&M has played this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, I think, the game that outside of Alabama is the most notable here.
Yep.
And you're right. I mean, I think we hope Condon's back for that. But I think that matchup without Condon or Micah would be certainly a pretty scary one. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a big deal down the stretch. I think it's going to help. I mean, again, you just don't know with ankles. Ankles can be really weird in terms of timetable. Sometimes they're, even, high or low ankle sprain doesn't really matter. Like sometimes it can be a really quick return. Sometimes it can take longer than is expected. So you just don't know. I don't think you can expect Condon's going to be back by that game, even though, given the timetable, we hope that's a decent possibility.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just gives you an offensive rebounding machine, a guy that's going to be one of the biggest players in the SEC. Huge boost coming into this kind of home stretch of games.
Yeah, if you want to go back towards last year, I mean, you get Micah Handlogten gets that injury 2 minutes into the Auburn game. It's like similar situation to how Condon got hurt early against Mississippi State. But Micah gets injured. We give up 86 points to that game. It was kind of over in the first half, that one. But you then lose him for the NCAA tournament, and you give up 102 points to Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have your best defensive player out there, Micah Handlogten, I mean, we're probably talking about winning that game.
Yeah, got bullied by Eddie Lampkin down low.
Eddie Lampkin. Yeah, I was trying to remember. I think I thought his name was Lampkin, but yeah. Eddie Lampkin bullied us into paint in that game. You have Micah Handlogten. He probably doesn't dominate as much. So then you're probably winning that game. Marquette was a bit overrated, I thought. And
I thought that was a good draw. Like that was a good 2 seed draw for the Gators.
If healthy, it would have been a really good draw because then you're going to play 11 seed NC State. And then a 4 seed Duke if you were able to beat them. So, I mean, you have Micah Handlogten. You're talking about a team that possibly makes the second weekend. Yeah. Probably makes the second weekend last year. So the effect that he's going to have on this team, who's right now odds say we're like betting odds have us as a 2 seed, but computer odds have us finishing as a 1 seed. So we'll see how that plays out.
Most bracketology, like Joe Lunardi, Jerry Palm, is it JBR bracketology? Yeah, they all of those have the Gators as a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think I'm talking about more finishing like predictive, like how betting odds and computer odds, team ranking, I believe it is. They have us as a 54% chance to be a 1 seed. So really good chance there. I think if you go 6-1, you will get it. Thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for watching the video. It's really exciting to have Micah Handlogten return from injury. As always, go Gators.